Hello, I'm Debra Jason with Creative Whispers of the Heart, and today I'm demonstrating another one of my alcohol ink silk scarves. This one is called Flower Garden, and it looks like this. Hi there. So, in this demonstration, I'm using a variety of brushes. Of course, I'm using isopropyl alcohol, and then I'm using wild plum, sunset orange, peach Bellini, and sunshine yellow. I'm also using some alcohol ink markers, a variety of greens and one that's called marigold. So, are you ready? Let's get started, shall we? I'm starting with a piece of silk 14 inches by 72 inches folded in half. I'm starting with the stems, and I forgot to say I am using some citrus green alcohol ink mixed in with a little bit of bottle that was in my palette. You'll see that as we move forward. I'm starting with very light, simple strokes, creating stems for my flowers. There's the citrus. I'm putting it in a palette, and I'm not adding any alcohol at this point. I'm just taking ink and lightly creating strokes, and now I've turned the silk on the other side because it did not go through both sides. You can see in my palette there's some bottle green with the citrus. The bottle green was already in my palette, so I just added citrus to it, and I am touching up the stems on the back side of the silk. Now I'm going to begin adding flowers. I'm taking sunset orange. It's in my palette, no alcohol added, just the ink. And you can see I'm dabbing little bits of orange onto the stems, creating flowers across the scarf. Just dabbing some color. And then I'm adding peach Bellini. Again, this is going into my palette. Taking a clean brush, and underneath the sunset orange, I'm just dabbing some peach Bellini. It looks like it's the same color, but it's a bit lighter. You'll see that when it dries. Just dabbing it on there underneath each little blossom. Then I like to splatter. So I'm splattering some Bellini, peach Bellini with my brush, but I decide I want some more, so I just take the bottle and splatter that on the scarf. Now I've opened the scarf up. I'm using wild plum, so I'm not going through two layers. I'm just a single layer. Cleaning my brush, and then the wild plum is in my palette, and putting a little dab under each petal. In there, I'm going more to the center, in the center there. Just a little dab of wild plum on each blossom. And of course, some splatters. I like splatters. Just tapping my brush with that wild plum. Now I'm moving on to the center of the scarf. Since it's 72 inches long, I have to do it in sections. But you can see I am repeating what I did earlier, adding some sunset orange to the top of each stem. Just short little strokes with my brush. A little splatters, of course. Then going back to peach Bellini and adding peach Bellini under each little blossom. and splattering some more. Now I'll go back to the wild plum and add that to each little blossom. There is no alcohol added at this point. It's just the inks. Splatter, splatter, some more splatter with the wild plum. Then every flower has to have some grass that it's growing in. So I'm taking an alcohol ink marker. This is a vivid green marker, and adding a stem there, some leaves, and then blades of grass across the bottom of my scarf. Adding that stem there, touching it up. My leaves, as you can see, are very loose, and the blades of grass are loose. Now, I'm using a second color of green. This one, I believe, is pale green. And adding leaves there and blades of grass there. You can see, there you go, across the bottom of the scarf. Oops, it gets a little stuck on the silk, but that's okay. Doing some long blades, some leaves, some grass, some short, varying it up as I go across the silk. When I'm done with that, I'm going to take yet another color. This is an olive green, and I'm adding olive green blades to the grass, going across all 72 inches of the scarf with that alcohol ink marker. Very loose and light. Now I am finally using some alcohol. I'm taking some 91% isopropyl alcohol on the brush, no ink on the brush, just alcohol, and creating the petal effect just by going over each blossom with alcohol and watching the ink bloom. Some of the flowers just seem to naturally have some petals, but I think doing this with the alcohol highlights it a bit more and gives it a little bit more depth. I do tap my brush on the paper towel after I've dipped it in alcohol because I don't want it to bloom too much when it touches the ink. I've taken a marker and outlined some petals on this flower and then added the alcohol and watch it bloom. You can see it has a little bit more of a flower shape. And so I use that marker intermittently. Sometimes it's just the alcohol I'm highlighting the petals with, and other times I take the marker. Now I'm speeding this up a little bit. I think you get the idea. Creating petals with that marker, taking the alcohol and highlighting it. And watching the ink bloom as I add the isopropyl to it. Making that bloom a little bit more. I wanted that on top and wanted the wild plum to bloom. Going around with the marker, with the alcohol, and watching everything bloom as flowers do. This one to me looks kind of like a tulip. I didn't intentionally create any specific kind of flower as I went along, but that one did look tulip-like to me. This one looks like a butterfly. Going across and touching up each of the blossoms. Adding some more alcohol to that one. And of course, adding some dots. This time, instead of splattering with the ink, I'm using the marker and just tapping it on the silk. I want some more color, so I'm taking Sunshine Yellow and a very thin liner brush and adding little drops of Sunshine Yellow under each of the flowers. I felt like I needed a little bit more color, something a bit different, and yellow, Sunshine Yellow, of course, adds sunshine to any flower garden. That's a good thing. Like the way those fell right there under that. Of course, trying to tap some color. The yellow didn't show very much, so I took a marker and I'm adding some yellow dots across the silk. Just tapping my marker across and adding those dots. Now you can see how the whole garden looks. I do rinse this in cold water with vinegar and salt before I iron it. I hope you'll give this technique a try and share your comments below or share the video. If you haven't yet, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks a million for watching.